What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis, including money, investing, the stock market, the fourth stimulus package update, stimulus check update, and these major bills going on here in the House and the Senate. We have some bills that have passed, some bills that have failed, and a major bill that has passed one part, a procedural vote, and still has to pass another major part here in the Senate that is really going to shape generations potentially to come here and is really a stepping stone forward to potentially a lot more on gun safety reform. We've had all these massive shootings here that really made a lot of headlines in Uvalde and Buffalo. And remember that mass shootings we've had over, I'll show you here, as of the beginning of June, there was over 250 mass shootings so far in 2022. So this is really just 5 full months of 2022. Mass shootings is considered only, you can see here, a mass shooting is considered where four or more people, not including the shooter, are injured or killed. We have averaged more than one per day so far this year. There's not a single week in 2022 has passed without at least four mass shootings. If you just Google this, you can go to the Gun Violence Archive and you'll see here that basically every single day there are shootings here. You can see the amount of people that are shot, killed, injured. I mean, it's there's a lot. I mean, look at all this just happened just in one single day. In fact, that's just one page. I have to actually go to the next page just to see a single day. So this is all a single day. Okay, we finally went to us the next day there. But that's how many people were shot, injured, and killed in a single day. Now, they passed the first procedural vote in the Senate for some gun reform. Here's the footage.
The yeas are 64, the nays are 34, and the motion is agreed to.
Yeah, so here you can see what is in this bill, some of the major things in this bill, and here are the Republican senators who voted for this. I'll pause this here for a second so you can kind of see a little bit more details there on what's in the bill. Closes the boyfriend loophole, mental health program funding, school services for students who need help, school safety funding, crisis intervention programs, incentivize red flag laws, but really it leaves it upon the states to then pass it. And I have a feeling that a lot of Republican run states might not pass that, just so you're, it's just my feeling on that. I have a feeling some states might not pass that because it leaves it up to the states. Enhanced background checks for younger buyers. You can also see here are the Republican senators who did vote yes for this, including Republican Senator Mitch McConnell. Yeah, so these were just the 10 that were in support of the original. They did actually get 14 when the vote came down to it. Yeah, you can see here Mitch McConnell as well, Republican Senate Minority Leader. Now, Republican Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky has vowed to introduce amendments to this gun safety bill. Says the bill was rushed, even though it hasn't fully passed. They're trying to pass it by the end of the week. All they did was pass a procedural vote to move it on basically to the next stage. But here's what Rand Paul has to say. Let me know your thoughts on this. Republican Senator Rand Paul on Wednesday condemned parts of the recently announced bipartisan gun safety deal, describing some provisions as, quote, constitutional deficiencies. and vowing to introduce amendments as it comes to the Senate floor. The other thing about the Constitution is I've been talking about, our constitutional rights and things like this. You guys can let me know your thoughts on this. I'm talking about this with a couple people. Um, the people who made the Constitution, a long, long time ago, things like assault rifles and school shootings, the internet, those things didn't even exist back then. So, when you say our forefathers that made the Constitution, you really got to think that times are completely different now. Assault rifles didn't exist, mass shootings didn't even really exist. People didn't walk into schools and shoot children with assault rifles and body armor. So you got to kind of think that our forefathers who made the Constitution, and again, we're not talking about taking away, um, you know, regular guns from law-abiding citizens. So you gotta really put this into perspective about our people who created the Constitution 200 some years ago. So let me know your thoughts on that. Again, I was just talking about this with a few people, and that would be like me making a law for something that's going to happen 200 years from now in the year 220 2222. I mean, who knows what the world's going to be like then? I mean, there literally could be flying cars. I mean, think about, we have the internet, which is basically magic waves going through the air. Think about Wi-Fi. It's literally travels through the air. We have, voice command phones that say, "Hey Siri, look something up for me." We have self-driving cars now. I mean, you think about Teslas can actually like drive on the freeway with no hands. We think about, we have things like solar panels that actually take energy from the sun and power your home. They didn't even have electricity back then. You got to really kind of put into perspective what's how different our world is today. Um, yeah, yeah. It's just like, how could I make a law for, or the president or the Senate now for something 200 years from now? Things change. Things change. So constitutions got to change. Laws got to change. They got to be updated. But I mean, let me know your thoughts. It's just something I was talking about with a few people. So Rand Paul says, unfortunately, this legislation was assembled, and many are, in secret, absent well-placed leaks to journalists. He said there doesn't appear to be willingness or time provided to read, understand, debate, or amend this bill. Now, I do agree with him a little bit here about the debating and amending the bill. I actually do agree with him there because they did kind of rush the vote after it came out. They voted on it pretty quickly. But there is time to read and understand it now because they still haven't fully passed it. Okay. But I do agree with him here about the debating and amending it because he still wants to do that here, anyways, before the final vote. He says, I will try anyways. He continued, to this end, I will introduce amendments to correct the constitutional deficiencies of this bill and hope my colleagues and the Senate leadership will do the same. Personally, I think that he should have the right to introduce amendments. They should let him introduce an amendment. They could vote on it, yes or no. If it's voted no, then so be it. As long as there's not, hundreds of amendments or something introduced and it's reasonable, by all means, he's a senator. Every senator should have their right, as they've earned their right in the Senate, Republican or Democrat. And then that should be that. I mean, this is a major step forward. Although me and many people don't think that this bill really does. It doesn't really go that far. It's really a a, a, a step in the right direction. Many people think, but it doesn't really do that much to Now, even though both the shooters in Uvalde and Buffalo were under the age of 21, um, it really it could do a lot more. The problem is they can't do a lot more because they won't be able to get enough votes from the Republicans to pass it in the Senate. And therein lies the rub. So this is basically all they can do to pass something now. Even so, they only got 14 Republican votes to get 64 votes. They actually might lose a vote or two here before it actually goes to vote. So really, they're just passing this barely, if you kind of think about it. Yeah, you can see here Senate negotiators on Tuesday released the text of the long awaited deal because they've been negotiating back and forth with Republicans and Democrats that would take firearms away from dangerous people and provide billions of dollars in new mental health funding, among other measures. And then they quickly voted on it Tuesday evening to advance the legislation with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and 13 other Republican senators supporting the measure. They all kind of knew what was in it, but when they actually introduced the bill, it was voted on kind of quickly. But remember, the vote isn't even the final vote, it's a procedural vote to move the vote to the next to advance it. They still have to do the final vote here in the Senate that they're hoping to do this week still. So they still have plenty of time to read the bill because it hasn't fully passed. The vote passed, but it's a procedural vote. So they still have plenty of time to read it. That's why Rand Paul still wants to make his amendments because it hasn't fully passed in the Senate yet. So keep that in mind. Yeah, you can see here Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he expects the bill to pass the Senate by the end of the week if all the votes hold up. Rand Paul said he supports some of the bill's provisions, like a section that includes juvenile records in background checks for gun buyers under the age of 21. He says, quote, looking at the recent criminal past of anyone is a good idea before assessing gun ownership. But even so, they're only looking at the criminal backgrounds of people under 21. Anybody over 21, they're not looking at their background at all. He says, quote, however, that idea was paired with many questionable or bad ones in this legislation. He specifically raised concerns over a proposed $750 million. By the way, that's less than $1 billion. So that's a very small amount for our country. In funding for states to implement crisis intervention orders, including red flag laws. That's one of the areas where a lot of Republicans don't like. That allowed a court to confiscate a firearm from somebody deemed to be a significant danger to themselves or others. I mean, the problem is that if a court deems somebody dangerous, I get that this is a controversial topic, but what do we do? Do we wait until they go and shoot somebody? I mean, how do we assess the situation? I mean, if a court is ordered and a court makes a decision, I mean, there has to be some way, there has to be some type of way to prevent a shooting before it happens, right? Or do we just wait until a shooting happens and then they're shooting people? They're literally in the midst of shooting people. Do we want to wait until that point, or do we want to have some type of prevention ahead of time? That would be the red flag law. So we either have the red flag laws and we say, okay, we do want to have some prevention ahead of time where we could take guns from dangerous people, or we don't have red flag laws and there's basically no way to take a gun from somebody that a court would deem dangerous people. And basically, there's no way to take a gun away from somebody who already has one. Then they can go and, start any type of shooting. And then basically to stop them, you have to have somebody there to shoot them back, a police officer or whatever. So that's the problem, is that if you don't have a red flag law where a court could decide that they're dangerous and they need to have it taken away, what's the other alternative? So, and even so, even with this bill, the states are going to have to even implement red flag laws. There's going to probably be states that won't even implement them, to be honest. I mean, we'll have to see. But also, yesterday, The House of Representatives here had a couple different things here. One, they passed a package addressing mental health, and 20 Republicans voted no. I mean, you would think that this would be a no-brainer, right? Um, especially like with what we're dealing with here. And again, it's a lot of the Republicans that say it's not the gun that kills people, it's the people, it's the mental health issue. And 20 Republicans voted no on a mental health package. And again, they're the Republicans are the ones that are voting no on the gun reform issue as well. So they're voting no on the gun reform issues, and they're also voting no on the mental health issues. So how do we fix it? I mean, it passed, but I mean, yeah, it's just this kind of stuff kind of leaves me flabbergasted sometimes. Yeah, you can see here the House passed a bipartisan package on Wednesday that seeks to address mental health and substance abuse. All 20 no votes came from Republicans, including Andy Biggs. You'll notice some of these names here. They're names that are like in the news a lot. Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gates, Paul Gosar. A lot of these names sound familiar to you guys. You see these names in the news a lot, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gates, Lauren Boebert, Paul Gosar. Uh, it is going to really be interesting to see if a lot of these guys, they're all up for reelection, by the way. Every single person in the House of Representatives is up for reelection. Remember, only serve 2-year terms. Be really interesting to see how these elections go. I'll keep you updated on that when that comes up here very soon. Package calls for creating a behavioral health crisis coordinating office in substance abuse and mental health service administration, which will be tasked with bolstering access to crisis care. The office will receive 5 million per year. 5 million. That's like a nothing burger. Not 5 billion with a B. 5 million for the country. That's literally nothing on the scale of the size of our country. Wow. It also reauthorizes millions of dollars for grants for states, territories, and tribes to go towards community mental health services for adults who have serious mental illnesses and children who live with grave emotional disturbances. And like how can anybody vote no on this? Reauthorizes programs that address mental health. This is like a no-brainer stuff, right? Also, yesterday, the House failed to pass a bill creating an active shooter alert system. Wow. Here's the details on this. So, the House yesterday failed to pass a bill that would create a communications network, kind of like, I guess this would kind of be like, when a child is missing and they have the Amber Alerts. Wow, wouldn't it be an amazing thing to say there's an active shooter in your area and it comes across the TV or your cell phone? Why would we not want to have something like that? Honestly, in today's day and age, with how many shootings there are, does this not seem like a no-brainer? I mean, imagine I showed you that list of how many shootings there are. They happen every day in various parts of the country, and showed you all those for like one single day. There's a lot. There's a lot. So like, why do we not pass something like this? We have the technology, right? Check this out. Yeah, the House on Wednesday failed to pass a bill that would create a communications network that would alert people when an active shooter is in their community. The legislation, dubbed the Active Shooter Alert Act, was considered under suspension, a process that allows legislation to be passed quickly with two-thirds support. The bill did not reach that threshold. That's interesting here. Failing in a 259 to 162 vote despite having bipartisan sponsorship. Wow, that's interesting to see that. That's rare that you even see something like that. They didn't just pass it the normal way. 16 Republicans helped introduce the legislation. One Democrat voted with 161 Republicans voted against the bill. 44 Republicans voted yes for the bill, joining Democrats in supporting the measure, and 161 Republicans voted against the bill. Wow. The Hill reached out to them to see why the vote failed. The bill called for creating an active shooter communication network, which would inform community members when an active shooter is in their area and would function similarly to the Amber Alert system. Wow. They said the House will bring up the bill again, and then the Democrats in the chamber will pass it with the Republicans who voted yes on it, making it clear that Democrats are on the side of protecting our families. 44 Republicans did vote for it, though, and said that the Republicans, she called out Republicans for inexpressively opposing the measure. Our Active Shooter Alert Act, which was overwhelmingly opposed by Republicans today, would help law enforcement send out amber-style alerts when a gunman opens fire, ensuring passerby do not unknowingly walk into a dangerous area. But today, House Republicans overwhelmingly and inexplicably voted to oppose the needs of law enforcement heroes and to keep this critical life-saving information away from our communities. Quote, active shooter events have become so ubiquitous, so frequent that some of these horrific events barely make headlines. This is not normal, and we cannot let it become normalized. We cannot become numb to these events, and we cannot settle for the status quo. We have to give law enforcement every tool they need to neutralize these threats and keep our communities safe. Wow, let me know your thoughts here in the comments. So it looks like they'll be passing that in the House here soon when they go through the normal process of passing that. Then it will go to the Senate, where the Senate will need 60 votes. So if Mitch McConnell and 10 Republicans support it, it looks like if that passes in the Senate, we will have an Amber style alert system that if you have a shooting in your area, you would be notified. I personally see no reason not to have something like that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but I'll keep you up to date here on all these. This is major news breaking stuff here. Um, and this is stuff that we need going forward, or at least I think so. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to see my newest video next, and you can click here to see my newest video on stimulus checks. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.